been up to? I mean, you guys beat Thanos, right? Spoiler. So what are you up to now? You don't know? Just waiting? Yeah, that happens. So, big plans for the weekend, Ironman? You know what's happening this weekend, right? What?
My friend's birthday?
Yeah, your friend has a birthday. Also, it's kind of a big weekend. Do you know what the big holiday is this weekend? It's called Mother's Day. You know about Mother's Day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this weekend. Did you do anything for your Mother Iron Maiden? Yeah, you did some stuff? Or did you just have me do it all and then you wrote your name on the bottom of it?
Well, I did, I have some letters in my secret hideout for my mom.
Oh, okay. Well, it'll be Mother's Day this weekend, so happy Mother's Day to all of you out there. It's a weird time to be celebrating mothers. You know, no restaurants, no distancing, no peace, but obviously we need them now more than ever. So say happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day!
All right, so let's start with our Pavlova, and then Ironman will tell us some jokes while it is whipping. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So Pavlova is a fortified meringue, which means that it is meringue that has stuff added to it to stabilize it further. That will change the way that it bakes. Typically, when you bake a meringue, it dries all the way through so that it is crunchy. When you bake a Pavlova, because of the cornstarch and the vinegar especially, it will bake into something kind of like a marshmallow texture with a beautiful eggshell meringue crack on the outside. It is super lovely, super velvety, super awesome. I love Pavlova. 2 or 3 or 4 years ago at the Coppell Farmers Market Farm to Table dinner, I did Pavlova and people's minds were blown, and it is so crazy simple that it's made from these few ingredients and a little bit of time. Now traditionally you'll see Pavlova made very large and then portioned almost like a cake. I prefer to make them individual because it's honestly not more work and it gives you more plating options. Ironman, come on now, let's stay focused here, bud. Yeah, that wasn't a good idea. Did that hurt a little?
No.
Okay. So in the bowl, we have our egg whites. I, of course, have pasteurized egg whites that are stabilized with gum, so they will re-whip. If you try to use pasteurized egg whites from the grocery store, it will not work. So use fresh egg whites. You can age them if you would like. We've talked about this before. To age them, it's very simple. Crack the eggs and let the water evaporate by sitting out on the counter overnight or for a couple days. They will be totally fine. We have a very thorough kill process for all cooties and germs between the vinegar, the sugar, and the baking. They'll be perfectly safe. To age them, do it for a day or 2. They do not have to be aged, but it is nice to have more compact egg proteins. So we have our egg whites. We have 2 cups of sugar. It's 400 grams. We have 90 grams of water, which you don't often see water added to meringues. Kind of freaks me out the first time I did this. We have 2 teaspoons of vinegar. Of course, we're using champagne vinegar today because I like to have it white and it's delicious, but you can use any vinegar and it gives you little ways to start kind of modifying the flavors. For the farm to table dinner, I used a vinegar from one of the farmers or artisans, I can't remember, and I made sure that it was in combination with my dish. So I think it was like an apple cider vinegar, and I paired it with fruits and things of that nature. And of course, if you want to start going in a more savory route, you can put some balsamic vinegar in there. Any vinegar will work. And then of course we have our cornstarch. Now you've seen me do this with other meringues. I'm pretty lazy. I don't like too much difficulty with meringue, so I put everything in the bowl and I crank it up. We whip it until it is fully whipped and stiff. It'll take a couple minutes. So Ironman, why don't you give us some jokes?
What? Light, well,
Light.
white and sugary and swing through trees.
What's light, white, sugary, and swings through trees? You know, I don't know what. A orangutan. Oh, like a monkey, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you put your foot down, Ironman? What's our second joke?
What do you call a egg dessert that keeps coming back to scare you?
What do you call an egg dessert that keeps coming? I don't know.
A
Okay, so you can see our whippy, it's already thick and luscious and beautiful. We're going to let it whip just a little bit longer. This is what we would consider medium peaks. It is extremely difficult to over whip a Pavlova, so don't worry too much about that. Yes?
How did it rise?
How did it rise? Well, as it's whipping, this whisk has those thin wires, and it sucks air into it, and then as the protein foams, it absorbs more air and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Now, if you're at home and you don't like my recipe, which is fine, you may see recipes that call for cream of tartar. Cream of tartar is simply the powdered form of tartaric acid. We have vinegar in here. It will allow it to whip longer and give it a more stable finish when it is done. That's the whole reason we add cream of tartar to meringues. It also helps them stay white because they whip so long. Right? It's looking good. With this meringue, as it is right now, we could obviously start adding some flavors in there. Don't be afraid to put in some espresso powder. Make an espresso pavlova. You can add vanilla beans. You can add food color if you want special colors on your pavlova. Obviously, the food color is going to change a little bit as it bakes. You'll usually get kind of a brown exterior, but the interior will still be really, really beautiful. And pavlova is almost always served with some kind of cream or ice cream that either goes on it or in it. Of course, I told you I prefer the smaller pavlovas, so I try to compose more of a plated dessert where there are different elements. But if they're served whole, a lot of times it will be a pavlova, lemon curd, or something like that, and then fresh berries is very, very traditional. Blaze, what do you know about pavlova? What can you read off the board?
Believed to have been created in her.
Okay, so what Ironman's trying to read is believed to have been created in the honor of a Russian ballerina as she toured around Australia and New Zealand. This is the official dessert of Australia. So, it's kind of strange, huh? Must have been a really good ballerina. As you can see, we have our meringue. One of the ways we check it is we hold it over Ironman's head.
No!
It's fully whipped. It's not going to fall out. That was hilarious. Now, we have so many options for our pavlova, right? A lot of times what you'll see done is it'll simply be scooped out and it'll just kind of be dropped on a parchment-lined tray, right? You can kind of tuck it if you want to. As it bakes, it will swell a little bit. We can even give it a little bit of a dimple there.
How about you slap that in your face?
I would not slap this in my face. What I like to do if I'm trying to make something a little more consistent in shape, what I'll do is I will use a piping bag, right? I have this piping bag. I have a star tip on it. It doesn't have to have a star tip, but I kind of like having the extra texture. And of course, as I'm trying to make, as I mentioned, plated desserts, it kind of instills a little bit of movement that you don't have to work on otherwise. Yes, Ironman.
Speaking of Star, where's Star-Lord?
I don't know where Star-Lord is. You haven't seen the movies, but you know what Star-Lord is. That's fine. Okay, so if I want it to be a little more exact in shape, I'll take a ring cutter and spray with a very thin layer of oil, like a standard pan or pan spray is fine. What we'll do is we'll pipe it in there.
Kind of looks like a cupcake right now.
It does kind of look like a cupcake. We can pat it down to fill the ring.
Now it looks like a circle.
You can scrape it flat.
Okay, now it just looks like a very flat and white cookie.
You are so good at the play-by-play, buddy. And then we very gently lift our ring. And then we have a very controlled shape. And this is what I did for the farm to table dinner, is I had several rings. I would pipe, scrape them all flat, and gently pull the rings up. As they bake, they will change shape a little bit, but at least this way they're all the exact same. Now, something else that we can do with pavlova, this is where we start kind of mixing different terminologies. If you use a meringue to create a bowl or a vessel to hold something else, that is called a vacherin. And a pavlova is a fantastic vessel for that. So we can pipe almost like a little bird's nest. Right? As long as we have kind of a hole in there, we can put our filling and then we can put whatever else beyond that. Of course, if you want to go all the way, like really, really controlled and really on top of everything, you can spread this with a knife like you would frosting, bake it, and then you have a giant sheet of it that you can use. Or we can pipe even sticks of it. As it dries out, it'll be really, really luscious. Now, of course, with Pavlova, it'll have more of a marshmallow texture in the middle, but if you bake it long enough, it will dry out completely. It's just not typically done that way. I do love, I know you love the marshmallow. I like the ring.
Marshmallows are the best.
And so for the little ones, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bake it. I like to keep them as kind of neutral as possible. So we'll bake it at 310 to 325 degrees Fahrenheit until they are dried on the outside. For this size, there's a different sizes here, but it should take about 20 minutes. If you're baking a large one, and I would recommend just putting it on the parchment or putting it on a cake pan to where it has room to bake. A pie plate is really best for that. You can fold it and try and kind of control it, or if you have big ring cutters, essentially, you can shape it like that also. Now, what types of fillings can we put in this? Traditionally, it is some kind of fruit and a cream of some sort, so you'll see a lot of creme anglaise. Lemon curd is very popular, but of course you can put ice cream in it, you can put sherbet, sorbet, you can use pretty much anything you want inside there.
Sherbet.
You can use chocolate. You can even make a chocolate pavlova by adding either melted chocolate until you like the texture of it. It'll change the way it bakes if you get above about 10%. Or we can add a small amount of cocoa powder to make a chocolate pavlova. All right, Ironman is punching himself in the face, which is weird. But we will bake these and get a photo out, and we will check back in with you guys with all of that later. If you are baking a full-size large pavlova, this would easily make an 8-inch full pavlova. That should take about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to bake. All right, so be ready for that. The temperature on this, if you bake a large one, I would still keep it around 325 degrees Fahrenheit. For the little ones, I like it between 300 and 325. It just depends on how different the textures I want it to be are. If you bake it too hot, it will souffle a lot and it will crack and kind of balloon outward. If you bake it at a lower temperature, it'll just kind of gently have a difference of textures and you'll get a lot more of that marshmallow texture. All right, so Ironman is losing it. We are gonna sign off before things get any worse. Thanks guys, we'll see you.